Not exactly hidden. He was of the village. He tended to stay away from the aliens despite his fascination. Sure, interacting was important, but there are other ways to learn. Besides, he preferred to do things one at a time. Finish one thing after another so you can devote everything to it. Otherwise, you're just half-assing things. It got him through training on Earth. It got him through the 4 months of cabin fever and has allowed him to learn the arts of vanishing, an art he now uses. No one even blinked when he claimed he was the new hire. There were some flirtatious winks from some of the other staff, and he overheard a few women wondering if he'd take the bonus. Betting pools said no, but apparently some girls like long odds. He was a picture of formal professionalism, giving off every air of someone eager to please in order to keep their job and earn a proper paycheck with dignity. Refined, crisp, mature, and reasonable. Exactly the kind of man the target doesn't like, but also the kind of man that would be excellent as a manservant. "Your lunch, madam," he says as he walks in. She gives him a clearly assessing look, then another, and then another. He places the tray down next to her as she's outright scheming as she looks at him. "Is there any other way in which I may be of service? Perhaps, how averse are you to a restorative rest?" She asks, unaware that a small device in the inside of his belt has just buzzed twice to let him know it's downloading. He needs to keep the conversation going. "May I hear more specifics, madam? If it's for medical reasons, I have no issue," he remarks. No, I mean, aesthetically. You have a great potential to be quite handsome, however you're clearly over the hill," she says to the 27-year-old man. "Perhaps you could rejuvenate yourself? Bring back that earlier spark?" I'm rather fond of reaching the top shelf without climbing over things at the moment, madam. Such a change is not one to be taken lightly, and as such there are certain requirements that would be undoubtedly required in order to commit to such a grand alteration of my lifestyle and ability to perform my duties," he says at length, giving a no without actually saying no or actually committing. He needs more time for the device to keep downloading off the woman's personal communicator. "Is there something wrong with the occasional energetic scramble, young Tret? I will admit that height can give advantages, but you must know that axiom can give more. You can easily make up for inconveniences with the wages I can pay. Furthermore," she eyes him up again and takes on a bit of a half-smile as she imagines something she likes. "I don't think you'll need a new uniform. In fact, if you're willing to undergo a proper restorative coma, I would have to insist that you continue to wear clothing more sized for the future developments to come." "And would those developments come, should I agree in fullness to this potential pay raise?" he asks delicately. Her expression seems to sour at the idea of her staff growing older. "No," she says, and to his immense relief the tiny device buzzes twice more. It's finished its task. He has no need to lead her on or plead. "Then I'm afraid my answer will be much the same, madam. While the energy of youth may be entertaining, the strength of age is of greater worth to me," he says, and there is a look of sheer disgust at the idea on her face. "I see. Return to your duties, then," she says, clearly dismissing him, and he gives a slight bow and walks out. He overhears her muttering about her head servant needing to tighten up hiring standards if senile prudes are being brought into the staff. As he rounds a corner, he flicks out what looks like a small stone from his belt and tosses it into the branches of a bit of tended-to shrubbery that's been looking unusually healthy and strong today. Back on the chain breaker. Litha Power Coil smiles as the flowers next to her workstation deposits a disguised device. A bit of fiddling to work it out of its camouflage casing, and she's easily able to insert it into her closed-circuit computer. They were being careful about viruses. There's raucous cheering from the crowd as he enters the ring. He's a big man, a very big man, and while it had made a lot of his stealth training a little harder, It allowed him to pull stunts like this. He was strong, and he looked strong. Not the sculpted and vein-popping strong, but the flips your car when you take up 2 parking spaces strong. He could get rid of the slight beer gut, but it concealed the fact that he could straight up wrestle down a Canador and had the core strength to outright run with one in a bridle carry. He was the last thing anyone would consider a ninja, a spy, or someone capable of subterfuge beyond being the dumb muscle, which meant he was pretty much perfect for the role. The beast from the feast, the brute who's a hoot, give it up for Basher Brown. The announcer roars and he raises his massive arms to the cheers of the crowd. He has a white t-shirt, a pair of black boxing shorts and sneakers on. He's a pair of gloves away from being able to walk into a squared circle, although he might get dinged for the shirt. And opposite of that mountain of man is a longtime contender. She'll drop you 10 times before you hit the ground. She's a flurry when standing still and a hurricane when taking it easy. She's in it to win it and has yet to hit the mat with anything but her opponent, Cianodel the Slaughterer. "Are you trying to give me an easy win?" Cianodel demands as she looks him up and down. Brown returns the gaze, but is mostly paying attention to the fact that someone in the crowd just ducked into a back room, one right next to the changing room. He cracks his knuckles as he walks up so that the referee is between them both. "Try not to get hit, little lady. I don't want to be arrested for murder." The ref just gives him a downright baffled look before turning to Cianodel. The smaller woman's look has gone from dismissive, if eager, to outright feral. Yes, she is thoroughly distracted. "By the time I'm done with you, your bruises will have bruises," Charlie replies, and Brown just nods as he lets out his most psychotic smile. The ref takes a step back, and for good reason. He's been practicing. It's pretty much at the level it can curdle milk. "Okay then. Remember, killing your opponent is an immediate forfeit." The ref tells them both before waving her hand between them. "Fight!" The woman immediately backs all the way up to the edge, and just in time as Brown's opening hook is on point and the projection of Cianodel that takes the hit is sent flying even as it dissolves. Sweet goddess, Basher is out for blood and death as he opens up with a brutal flurry of punches. Each and every one of them is shattering a Cianodel projection and stopping her from setting up her opening surround. Can she get her balance back? Or is he going to push her all the way to the corner for the kill? The announcer calls out as the crowd goes from merely roaring to flat out insane. Brown's eyes narrow as his knuckles impact again and again with numerous different copies of the same woman. For all that he's pressing her, her retreat is less a retreat and more casually walking backwards as more copies are formed. She's not worried. She's not scared. She is, however, judging him and learning. Then his instincts spike and he jukes backwards and avoids a brutal kick to the side. It's not legal in boxing, but the reflexive backhand sends the copy to the ground and it begins to fade like the others. "Good instincts," Charlie notes. But just how good are they? Then he's surrounded and instantly blitzed. 4 of them grab onto his legs and it's a fight to try and move his hands anywhere. The projections are capable of channeling axiom in their own ways, and their grips are as strong as iron. He finally starts channeling it himself, and he smashes 2 of the projections even as he takes a brutal elbow to the gut. He makes a step towards where Cianodel is standing, and she just backs off as more and more projections pile on. Through the pile of semi-real women, he sees the agent slip out of the back rooms. His response is to grab 2 copies by the head and hurling them at their creator. That was just a distraction, though, as he pumps Axiom hard and charges despite the fact that he's eating about 50 punches, knees, and kicks by the second. He lets out a roar and sends a wave off himself to break the grips of the projections, then twists to throw them all off in a deluge of falling bodies even as he charges Cianodel again. She weaves away from his first swing, and a projection grabs onto his arm as another goes under his swing to punch him square in the gut. He then blinks to the side, teleporting short range and without the aid of the dark forest, or the newly formed bright forest either. This is between two people, one who is many and one who stands alone. She ducks under his first jab and is clipped by his follow-up hook. Then the sky comes down as a massive fist smashes into the side of his face, and he's sent staggering back. It's a copy of himself, but bigger. He drops his stance and just leaves. If you're not going to fight with anything but a cheap trick, then there's no point fighting at all, Brown says, leaving the ring and outright spitting as he just walks out to the chatter and gasping of the crowd. Besides, it's not like he needs any more information about her fighting style. She holds back too much. A bit of rope-a-dope as you line up a shot and she should be easy pickings. She's far too confident that she's untouchable, and breaking that illusion too soon will just make things harder. Stupid girl. She relies on it too much. It'll win a fight, but not a show, Jacob notes to himself. He's unaware that the audience member directly behind him is listening closely and in a perfect position to see the screen of his active communicator. As he stands up and starts to leave the fighting arena that's now gone to havoc, as a lot of people are arguing that the match was a draw or a win or loss one way or the other to try and recoup their bets or even swing them into wins. He notices but pays not attention to the sudden stretching and yawn of the person who had been sitting behind him. As he leaves the arena, he notices and dismisses a man sitting on a public bench and reading a hardcover book. The man scratches at his chest and hits the button hidden under his necklace. Roughly a dozen men shift positions through the city as Jacob Schreichtalon takes off and quickly gets some distance from the typical travel lanes of vehicles. The public park he soars over is looking particularly lush today, very healthy. He doesn't notice. He has no eye for horticultural affairs or spotting camouflage figures in horticultural affairs watching him. He does, however, raise an eyebrow to see a Tret man wrestling with a very vicious-looking creature that he's clearly only partially tamed. It's vaguely porcine with a noticeable bulk and very tough skin. He descends. He has time anyways if the fight's over as early as it is. Hey, Tret, what is that thing?" he calls out, and the Tret turns and gets bowled over by the creature. "Paratak. They're Serbo-native, and I've been trying to get Wobbles here to behave, but it's a hard no so far." "Aren't those food beasts?" Jacob calls back. "So I've been threatening the pest with." The Tret replies, and Wobbles lets out a distinctly displeased squeal. Jacob just chuckles at the man's misfortune and then checks where the nearest air cars are. None are in motion, so he simply struts across the street and heads over to his entrance to the building. He doesn't notice that the man with the paratak and a figure above him take careful note of his knocking pattern and make a record of the time. And he certainly doesn't notice the figure then drop down and place a tiny device in the crevice of the door.